Yeah.
Goddamn Pat needs
Bloody
to-
Pat.
That's what's happening right now.
Oh dear.
A man who can't take the poo.
None of us can, man. None of us can. Right,
So, Rob, why did you pick the film?
so it's fairly new, obviously. It's only been out a couple of weeks, right? And Rachel showed me it basically when it came out because like we both really like Hamilton, and the guy who wrote Hamilton is the director for this. And so she was like, "Oh, that film that Lin-Manuel's directed is out. Do you want to watch it?" And then she read the kind of like synopsis of it, and it was something like, "Oh, a promising musical theatre writer or something on the cusp of his 30th birthday feels like he's running out of time and all of this kind of stuff." And she was like, "Oh, this sounds like it's a film about you," because I've always had like this thing of because I mean obviously like I've always like written stuff and like I've always like wanted to sort of do something with that, but I've always had this thing about turning 30 and like that being the cutoff where like you can actually do something. So yeah, like I mean in the past year I've written like 7 screenplays just because I've always been like, oh, I'm running out of time, like I've got to get all of this out now. And so I think, yeah, just like on that level, I really related to it, and just like having that like ticking clock in the back of your head that's sort of saying like everything that you love has been made by somebody who you're older than already, and like I think it's one of the reasons that I really like people like Ridley Scott because like he was 40 by the time that he made his first film, and
Yeah.
also with Blind Spotting as well, like one of the reasons that like I kind of gravitated towards that was because it was the first film that David Diggs wrote and he was 38. So it was like it's kind of like an example of somebody who's like already got past this age that I've got in the back of my mind saying like, oh, you're already this old, so this is never going to happen. Like because it's an example of somebody who's already older and then made it happen. It's yeah. So yeah, I really related to that kind of like ticking clock that's in it, and just that kind of voice in the back of your mind that's saying like, oh, it's already too late. Like, why are you bothering? And that kind of thing. But also as well, I just think it's like a really well put together film. Like sort of I think like because with a biopic of somebody like Jonathan Larson, because he's been like hugely successful, I think like the temptation would have been to make something that's like almost like hero worship, because they could have easily made this like the story about how he wrote Rent and went on to be really successful. But the fact that they chose to make it about a musical that like never went anywhere, I think is really cool. And another reason I picked it as well is because like this is now the second musical that we've had in Film Club, and it's in every way possible the complete opposite of The Greatest Showman. So
It's the antithesis of The Great Showman.
yeah, because on like a very like sort of base conceptual level, they're both musicals about people who are trying to achieve some kind of success. And yeah, the way that they both do it very differently is I thought was kind of interesting because in The Greatest Showman, you've got somebody who hasn't got any ideas, who's just like stealing everyone else's ideas and doing like the most base level stuff, and he gets really successful, and it's supposed to be really uplifting. Whereas in this, you've got somebody who's like trying his best and like pouring everything into the art that he wants to make, and it just goes nowhere. And yeah, and to me, it's just like going back to what I was saying before, like for somebody who like tries to write things themselves, like it just feels to me like it's kind of like it's like when I watch it, it's almost like the film's kind of like sitting there as a person and it's saying like this is going to be like harder than you can ever imagine and it's going to make you miserable, but if you know that and you still choose to do it, then it's a really great way to spend your time, and I think that's really nice.
Well said.
Yeah.
Dan's like, yeah, I don't agree with that.
Objections. I don't know. It was kind of, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it caught my attention as much as, as I said, the other films you picked. Because, like, you know, Blind Spotting is really hard hit. I wouldn't say it's really hard hitting. It's not as.
It was very credible and realistic.
Yeah, it was like you can relate. I say you can relate. It's showing you a situation someone's in, and it's like how bad it is. Whereas this, it's kind of I think the musical bit kind of takes away from the, I won't say the seriousness of it, but it's kind of, I don't know, it's possibly I got distracted by the music being like, okay, this is a musical. We're not going like, actually, this is, because I think it was only until the very end, and I was like, oh, I can understand the seriousness of this. Whereas most of the film, it's like, oh, another song. Okay, singing about in meeting all the people that they've lived with in their apartment. I'm like, sure. How long have I got left of this? And I think that's nothing against the film. I think it's just that whole thing of, I don't know. It's musicals.
I find it
think
interesting because
I think I'm more into kind of fantastical musicals, if that makes sense. Like one of my favorites is either like Mary Poppins or The Sound of Music, even though Sound of Music isn't really fantastical. But it's like it's like Disney, isn't it?
It's a fairy tale, you mean?
Yeah, it's a Disney kind of like, this is a shit world, but there's this person that comes in, and then it's like, oh, she's really magical and she's really good, and like everyone loves her, and then it's like you go through this journey, a bit like an adventure. Whereas this is more of a, I think it is a serious musical, but it just kind of like, because it didn't really sit well with me as much as, that's why I said at the start, Rob, it was, I'd say this is probably one of your like lowest picks on the picks you've picked.
It sucked.
But it didn't suck, because I would have given it shit marks. Like I give acting 10 because the acting in it was really great. Like the fact that like you can see the bloke's got an issue, like his gay friend, and you can tell he's got that problem before you even find out he's actually got HIV, because you can tell by his reaction to him just going, oh, I've got to write this song, and he's just like, he wants to tell him something, but he's just not interested. Like the acting was really, really good, but I just find that the music kind of was a bit like, I don't know.
I think when I first watched it, some of it felt a little bit jarring. But when I rewatched it, like that's what I was saying earlier, like so there was loads of moments where I was going like, oh, that's what they were doing, and like I was it was all sort of falling into place. Probably the biggest example of that is the Sunday scene at the diner, where like he sort of pushes the wall out, and then you have like a stage, and then like you have like the ensemble and all of that stuff. So the first time I watched it, I was kind of like, this is really random. Like I don't understand like why this is here. But when I rewatched it, I noticed that just before that, so when the three of them, so when you've got Jonathan, Susan, and Mike sitting on the couch, and they're watching TV, what they're watching is Sunday in the Park with George, which is the musical that Sunday is originally from. And so what they're actually watching is that song being performed. And then when you get to the diner later on, so Jonathan's just been told that like his friend's in hospital, he's still thinking about the song, he needs to speak to Susan, and so you've got like all of these like clocks ticking in his head, and then it gets to a point where it's just like, right, this is too much, and then he just sort of like escapes into his own mind. And that was when I was kind of like, oh, this makes sense now, because if we're in Jonathan's mind at this point, that's probably what he would be doing, because he's kind of like reworking the song that he's seen on TV the night before. And then another thing that makes that fall into place as well is that everyone who's in that scene is a Broadway legend. So it's kind of like him it's like him creating his like dream ensemble. And that's where I went, oh, okay, that's not random. That's actually like how he would be behaving in that situation.
Because I was going to say, I'm sure these people have some kind of some notoriety, because they're just not just random people. I'm like, I kind of think these people were famous, but I don't know, because they didn't look like the other people in the film. They looked a bit more, what's say, like current, if that makes sense. Like they're all made to look like they're from that period, whereas then people just look completely out of place. Was the
we're in NFL shirts, aren't we?
Was one of them the woman from Cats?
Yeah. I think her name's Cheetah Rivera.
Cheetah.
So she was actually the inspiration for it, because apparently when Lin-Manuel went to see the premiere of Chicago, she makes a cameo in Chicago. And so apparently when she made the cameo, he was like, oh shit, that's so cool. So he wanted that scene to be like that cameo in Chicago times 20.
Yeah, it certainly is.
But I thought that was a really cool idea, just to have like him sort of disappearing into his own mind and like making his kind of like dream ensemble. And yeah, it kind of turned it from a scene where I was going like, what the fuck is this, to a scene where I was like, oh, okay, that's actually pretty cool, because yeah, you're kind of like 2 kicks deep at that point.
Yeah.
As a counter to what you were saying, Dan.
Oh, I'm being counted.
He's coming for Dan's head.
Oh, what's your name, Alec?
Where's Alec when we need him?
Go on then.
I,
Go on then,
I
Emmanuel.
don't blame you when it comes to like, when you're saying about musical stuff, and obviously it depends on the person. With this one in particular, I found that, and this is what musicals should be doing anyway, but I found that this helped me understand, the music helped me understand more, like the context of things, what was going on, the feelings of people. Like when he finally finished writing that song after him and his girlfriend basically broke up, and Vanessa Virginat is singing it, and that was what he needed to hear from his girlfriend, or she was kind of trying to basically telling him, but he wasn't really being frustrating. It just helped me kind of understand even more, and I think it's like that's part of what I think songs are meant to do. They're meant to obviously carry the story through, but they're also meant to explain in a different way than just watching it play out in a scene. And yeah, I also thought the Sunday part was cool. I was just like, oh, is he finally gonna be able to write this piece, to write that song he needs? Okay, nope. All right, cool.
Speaking of that scene where they have the argument, I really love that bit where like he starts playing piano on her back, and then she's like, wait, are you turning this into a song? Like, so I was just like, man, that's just like, I don't know, it's exposing, because I don't know if you can relate to this, like Ben and Emmanuel, because like you guys write stuff as well, and I don't know if you can relate to it because of like your sort of graphic design and stuff, Dan, but like, I don't know, like when you're a writer, you have like a bit of your mind that's sort of dedicated to things that you use for later reference. And so like that scene, I was kind of going like, no, he's exposing us. But that's what I love about it, because I think the film gets, well, 2 things really. Like, firstly, on what you said, Emmanuel, is that I think the film gets what a musical should be. And that's one of the ways that I was saying that it's like the opposite of The Greatest Showman, because in The Greatest Showman, you've got songs like, oh, like, this is me. And I'm like, but who are you? whereas in this, like, you're either getting an insight into Jonathan Larson's head, or it's kind of, it's almost sort of telling you what to feel in that moment as well. So I really love that. But then also the other part that I really love about it is that I think the film gets what it's like to be a writer, and like what it feels like to think like, you know, nobody's ever going to read your stuff, and it's never going to go anywhere, and all of that kind of stuff. Like one scene that I really love, and it's probably the scene that made me go like, shit, this is the film that gets it, is the phone call with Rosa after he's done the presentation.
Yeah,
because like, firstly, I think it's like acted brilliantly, because like she, like the whole way through the film so far, she's got like this Broadway front, and she's like this big character who's like very obviously always bullshitting. And then when she's on the phone and she's like, oh, all I've heard all day is that Jonathan Larson, I can't wait to see what he does next. And then like when her face kind of drops there, it's like, oh shit. Like that was a really nice moment of acting. But then the bit where she actually picks the phone up after he says like, what am I supposed to do next? And she's like, you start on the next one, and you just keep going and you keep throwing things against the wall, hoping something will stick, because that's what it is to be a writer. That was where I was like, oh shit, like that's like, that was the moment where I was kind of like, okay, so it's not just me who's like endlessly doing stuff that no one's ever going to read. Yeah.
That was quite eye-opening, because I thought that's part of that really stuck with me as well, because it's like he spent his whole life doing this play, this musical from scratch, and everyone said it's great, but it's still not good enough. And after that, it's still like, now what am I going to do? It's like, I put my heart and soul into this. What else can I do about it? And then I feel that I was relatable in that way. It's like, after I do my book, it's like, what else do I want to do? I don't know. I don't have anything else that I want to say yet. But for him, for Jonathan, he was like, look, do I want to be a writer, or do I want to be a playwright? And he proves everyone wrong and becomes that. It's just such a shame that he died, because otherwise he could have gone on to even more bigger and greater things as well.
I think that's kind of a weird kind of, it's an art thing as well. It's the fact of when someone dies, their stuff becomes more prolific, which is a bit of a random thing, because you think a lot of artists, like traditional artists back, like Picasso, Monet, and all these people back in their time, they were doing art because they wanted to express themselves, and other people would just look at it and think, what the fuck are you doing? Like, oh shit, because they go, oh, but it's not neoclassical, or it's not this or that. It's like this is the thing that's current, but now they're regarded as like some of the best artists in art history. And like a lot of people, they die and they become more famous, and it's just it has that kind of effect. But Rob, I remember you saying something a while ago about like art musicians. They spend their whole life to get their first album, and then their second album only takes them half a year or another year. So it's kind of, I don't.
Yeah, it's the sophomore album slump, isn't it? It's like you can focus your whole life making your first album or film or whatever, and then you come to the second one, it's like, I've burnt everything and I've run out of ideas. What do I do next?
But the thing, Rob, you said about using references and like keeping references for later date. Well, the thing, well, I remember when I did my degree and I did my thesis on semiotics, if you know what semiotics are. It's basically how you understand what you see. So the thing is, with your ideas, they're never original, because you're always being inspired by seeing things. Like, oh, you might write something based off something you've seen. I don't know. Oh, I'm going to do a horror film about, I don't know, just a man who wants to like kill people in a house. It's like, oh, wait a minute, this has been done by multiple people over multiple years. It's a lot of the things, like your ideas and your thoughts are very influenced by what you see and what you read. So it's unless you're like the caveman who's never seen anything before and you get the original idea for something like the will, it's like that reference is never going to be like a cheat as such, because you're always being influenced. It's just your idea is always going to be, I'd say your ideas are original because you're using two things that might not work and then putting them together and they might work. And it's the whole thing of you taking that thing and then throwing it against the wall. And it's like, wait a minute, what if I take this thing, this idea, stick it there and see what happens? And then people, as she says, they don't like it because it's too like sci-fi. And he's like, but it's nothing to do with sci-fi. It's because when you're writing for people that want to sell mass, so it kind of mixes in with the advertising as well, because the whole thing about advertising is to sell something to someone. Even if it's not actually a product, you're advertising. Say you're advertising yourself, you're selling something about yourself to another person. So yeah, it's I've majorly tangent myself and I forgot what I was gonna. But no, like I really got the advertising bit because I really liked wanting to do advertising. And then I kind of did a module on about how I advertise, like historical advertising and like the use of racism and xenophobia and all these things to sell products. And when I watched that bit and she's like, oh, think about America. And he's like, yeah, I've got this great idea. And I'm like, yeah, because I would have been that person who would have said that. And then she's like, so the product is this zero fat thing, but it might cause this and it might cause this. And it's just like, okay, you're really creative, but how much are you going to sell of yourself to be able to sell something? Because that's the whole thing about it. Yeah, so that bit really got me. I was like, yes, I understand. That's fucking advertising. But yeah,
I really,
as I said, like original ideas. We've not actually got original ideas. It's just you're just making something your own, and that's like with my painting, right? Just bringing it back to myself again because I'm realistic. But like when you take, like, a lot of my painting is kind of, I've got an idea for something and it's basically because I've probably not seen it, but I have this like original idea, and it's my style of painting is based off not other people's work, but it's stuff I've seen where I go like, okay, I know all these artists and I like that bit of that and I like that bit and that bit and that bit, and you go, okay, I can kind of, that bit doesn't work with that bit, but I can kind of fudge it so it does. And it's kind of like with writing, you might not be original, but you're kind of making it, you're using your rational thinking to make that idea work within that context or whatever. There's my ramble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and I think.
Yeah, I get.
Oh, sorry, Emmanuel.
No, you can talk first.
I was just going to say, because you brought up the advertising scene, like I really like how that's put together, because you've got like, so it's like the first time that he's getting sort of positive reinforcement from people who aren't his friends. So he's kind of sat there going like, yeah, I could get used to this. Like I can have ideas and people actually listen to them and people like them. Like this doesn't seem so bad. And then the point where she says like, oh, this product's been tested on a number of mammals, and he's kind of sat there like, what? And then the other guy goes, oh, that's good. It's just like, yeah, I really like how it sort of paid off for him to go like, oh, okay, I can kind of see why people get into this. Like this isn't such a bad thing. And then he kind of ends that scene going like, fuck these people. Like,
It's also, it says about like working as well from other people, because the whole thing about being an artist or a creator or something is not always about working for other people in some respects. Like if you're like traditional artist, or because he was like a playwright, a lot of the time you've got your idea and your passion and you try and sell that to people, they're not going to like it as much as you are, because you know certain things don't sell. Like when they keep saying to him, oh, is it a sci-fi thing? It's like, no, it's a social commentary. And it's like, but that's not really going to sell. We need like this kind of thing. And that's what I really gets on my nerves about, like you trying to be an artist or a creative person. It's kind of, as I've found out before, when you do something for someone else and they're like, yeah, I like that, but I want it like this. And you're like, but that's really bad idea. I think my idea is much better than that. And they're just like, you can't say this to the person because they're going to say, well, it's my money, my thing. I want it to look shit.
yeah.
I'm like, but I want to make it look better. And it's like, you have to compromise on things, which is really, like, really horrible in some respects, because you're kind of undercutting yourself. And it might be a great idea, but if that person wants you to make it look shit, then you have to do that. And that's the whole thing about him with this play, is he's got this whole great theme, but it don't sell. And people want easy kind of, like, what's it called, The Great Showman, for example. There's no real depth to it. It's very much the case of, we've got Hugh Jackman in a circus and he sings with Zac Efron. You have a like what's it called, like a audience, like a test audience, and you told them three things. You got Zac Efron and fucking Hugh Jackman singing in a circus. They're gonna go, yeah, I want to watch that. if you said to him, oh yeah, I've got a social commentary on how racism affects the working environment, and the people are going to go, yeah, we're not really interested in that. Don't really make us go, oh, I really enjoy this, because it's
Yeah, it's for the minority rather than the majority. As an
exactly.
aside, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah.
Yeah. As an aside, when you're talking about they want something crap, been through that as well. And then sometimes it takes something to happen for them to go, oh, you were right.
Yeah.
I've had that happen. Like, I made it for them, got paid and everything. I kept telling them, the thing is, I wasn't as nice. I said nice. I was more real with the person. I was like, what you're doing now, there's reasons why main big companies don't do this. It doesn't work. Like, you can make this, but it's not going to be, you might like it, but it's not going to sell. There's reason why all this research and stuff's going into this. And then eventually they came back and just said, oh, yeah, you're right. And then later on, they got that exact design that I was talking about made with someone else. I'm just like,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And that ties into the whole artists becoming famous after they died and stuff. Sometimes some of the stuff it might not fit in for their time, but it does in a different time. They just become popular. Or some artists might keep working and working, but they don't become big until they're much older. Like, say, Ben Howard as a musician. Like, he got big as like, I swear he's got family and kids, most likely. But it's like, he's older than us.
The thing,
but
Rob,
he cares.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, he cares more about the music. There was two things I was thinking about that I think all of you said. The things filing away for later, I always do that for art. For parts of my stories, and I'm thinking about, oh, I want to do that, or do this, do that. And the kind of, and this is something I probably went through like many years ago as well. We probably all did at different points. But it's like, do you sacrifice everything for the art, or do you go for stability and do the thing as on the side? And the way I kind of saw it was that I'd rather focus on the stability and happiness in life without achieving something in this, rather than going for broke and achieving this great thing in my passion, but then looking at all the things I sacrifice. As a person, I wouldn't be able to handle that. I'd be much happier with stability and doing the side. If I get a break, great. If I don't, it's all right. I've enjoyed doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, because what I was going to say, Rob, like you said about you haven't done anything, and you've got to 30, and it's like, what? My kind of thing is, it's more the fact of how long I can do it for, compared to like, oh, I'm 30 and I've got to have this done. Because the problem with being doing art is you don't, because I'm impatient and I want it to be done, and I want it to, but it doesn't work like that. It takes time to practice and get better at stuff. So it's my kind of thing is, it's how long I've got left of my career. So it's like, oh, wait a minute. So if I can still do my art and I can do my painting until I'm like 70, I've still got 40 years of a career that I have. So it's kind of, that countdown is more of a longer thing, if that makes sense, compared to like, oh God, I've got to have this done by 30. Because I think the problem with that is you can't develop much so like from when you're 18 to 30, there's not much time to develop unless you're a really dedicated fucking person, which I can't imagine that unless you're completely insane. Because I want to say I was a very dedicated person, because I could have probably been somewhere further than I currently am. But that's a whole different thing. That's more of a personal matter. But my whole thing is, how long have I got left of what I'm doing? Like, if I can get good in 5 years to the point where I want to be, and then I have a 20, 30-year career where I'm doing top level work, I'd be happy with, like, my life would be satisfied if I could get to that point where I'm like, I'm doing the best of what I can for that period, because then you've had a more satisfying life. But life has a weird way of kind of saying, oh yeah, that ain't gonna happen. Like death. That's quite a sticky situation that, you know, yeah, life has this weird way of like taking it away from you. But it's just that kind of, I'd be more satisfied in how long have I got left of my career as an artist. And I know being an artist and being a creative isn't easy, because unless you're super duper, I wouldn't say talented, but super duper committed and focused on what you're doing, and you've made yourself like the best you can in the shortest period of time, people, that's how you're going to make it. You've got to be different, and you've got to be like really good at what you do. And I just think, because that's the whole thing, like if you push yourself too much, you don't enjoy it. And I know this wholly. I can tell you many things that just I've been there so many times where you're like, I just want to be like, I just want to get better and better, and you push yourself and you're less likely to do it. Which is like my model painting. Like, oh, I want to be like this, and then it's like, fuck, I hate it because I'm trying too hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot, like, because I've watched a lot of videos about artists and musicians and stuff, and they always say like, just enjoy what you do, and it doesn't matter if it gives you a big job and it gives you big money and it gives you a better lifestyle. If you enjoy what you do, you'll do it, and it'll make you a happy person. And I think that's the thing with your writing. If you can write and you go, I really enjoyed doing that, I'm going to do it again. Okay, one day someone might look at it and go, oh, actually that's really good, I think we should do this, and then other people like it, and then it makes it into a thing. Then that's like a good kind of offshoot of that. It's like a bonus, because if you keep thinking on the fact of, oh, I've wrote something and no one likes it, so I'm just gonna not bother. Because if you don't bother, and that next thing you'd write is like a masterpiece, then no one's gonna see it.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is like, so because what I write is screenplays, like they're not supposed to sort of live and die on paper. Like they're supposed to become like a sort of living thing that you sit down and watch. And because the thing is, right, so every time I write one, like I'll pull them out now. So every time I write one, I get them printed, yeah. And so like these are all the ones that I've written this year. So there's like 7 different screenplays there, and like when they come in the post, like I just sort of like pick them up, and like just seeing like kind of like that on the front, and like being able to like flick through and like see what you've written is one of the most satisfying things in the world. But it lasts for about an hour, and then I start thinking, but this is where it ends now. Like, because like the hard part isn't writing it, like the hard part is getting somebody to read it and convincing somebody that it's worth making. So it's like I get that like massive pop of satisfaction where I can like actually hold something that I've made, and then it's like, but this is where it ends. Like it's never going to go beyond this point, but this point isn't where this is supposed to end. Like, so it's a difficult two-way thing.
But the thing is, right, you can get that with buying stuff, Pat. No, like the idea of you buying something, people do it. They buy things to make that endorphin rush. You go, oh, I bought something new, and then once you bought it, it's not new anymore. So then you buy something else, and then you buy something else, and it's just that thing of, I think this is going to sound really like out there, but it's like a form of existing. It's like you just do things to kind of make you distract yourself from your mundane life or how things are, or your impending doom of actually dying at some point in the future. It's kind of, you will do that. And I think by writing stuff is a lot better than buying because you're taking your ideas, you're writing them down and you've got them, and then you can go, okay, I did that. And then once you've got a lot of them, you go, okay, I've actually achieved quite a lot. I think you've got to think of it in more of a positive. It's really hard to say that because me being me, everything's negative. Like I look at my paintings and I go, oh, shit. It's everything's got to be better.
I think that's another thing as well, is like you saying about looking at your paintings and going, oh, it's shit, is like nothing that you make yourself is ever going to be good enough. Because like even though I like I'll sit on the sofa on my laptop like writing away, if Rachel ever asks to read anything, I'm like, no, like you're crazy, what are you asking that for?
But it's really weird because it's only in the last whatever time in the recent years that I've actually looked at my stuff and gone, actually, it's all right. It's quite good. It's not like where I'd want to be, but the problem is where I'd want to be, I'd have to be sitting down every day for hours, practice. And me being a bit lazy, and it's quite tough. Like when you probably had the same thing where you're sitting there and you're writing around, it's going good, and then you get to a point where you're like, fuck, like this is working, but it just kind of, yeah, it just doesn't work, and you're like, oh fuck, it's not working, so I'm just gonna stop, and I'll kind of distract myself with something, and then you try and you slug. And I've had it before where, like, for example, I'm painting a picture of a person or a subject, and their face, it's always the face that gets me because it's the hardest part, and it always, and I spend hours fucking around trying to get it looking, and then what would take you like, I don't know, 2 hours to do something, it might take 20, which is a lot of time wasted. But then you get to the point where you do something and you go, yeah, that works, and then you just carry on and everything gets done. Yeah, a lot of it is hard, but I think you just got to persevere.
Yeah, that's exactly it, man. Like, and that's why that scene with Rosa got me so much, where she says like, you just do it again and you do it again and again and again, and that's what it is to be a writer. Because it's just like that. That's literally it. Because I think where I've struggled before is like you say, is kind of like getting to sort of like a halfway point, and then sort of because I think up until a certain point, like you're kind of going on your own steam and you're going like, oh, this is a brilliant idea, like I can't believe no one else has done this is awesome. And then you get to a point and then you go, no, this is bollocks. And it's kind of getting past that point that's the trick. And I think what did it for me is like years ago I saw I think it was an interview with Charlie Kaufman, who wrote Being John Malkovich, and he basically said like, don't get it right, get it written. And as soon as I'd heard that, I was like, okay, so yeah, like the point isn't necessarily to get it right as you're writing it, and like the whole point is to kind of like edit, and it's like that the song in Tick Tick Boom where he jumps the fence and then starts playing the piano, and there's like a line that so it's like stories from like all through his life, and then the thing that always repeats is him sort of saying over and over and over until I get it right. And like that's another bit where I was like, yeah, that's exactly it. Like that's what it is to be a writer, is you're just repeating things until they click.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the same with like getting good at anything. Be it, I don't know, driving a car, drawing a picture, painting a wall. Once you do it over and over and over again, you get good at it.
Restaurants have been hit hard by fees from delivery
Have they
apps.
now?
They take a huge chunk of our
Also-
bottom line.
Who's
All of that
watching
comes out of
today?
our pocket, and it's
Pat,
Your
who's-
TV chat. Also, I think quite a long time ago, I was able to go, even though I think one thing I'm so fortunate that I can look back on my old stuff and I can show it to people. At the end of the day, I know that I could see the flaws and be like, not flaws. I could see the things that I want to do better, or I wish I'd done this or done this. I'm just like, oh, it's just what it is. I'm actually quite proud of myself at that time because each of my pieces represents like a different like mini milestone. It's like, oh, this is the time I tried that technique. It kind of worked, but it didn't go all the way. This is the time I did that, and that was great, but this wasn't so great. And I could see my development within it. And even though I see the things I want to improve, I I just kind of appreciate that I actually put enough effort to even get that far. Even though, like you said, Dan, it's like if you want to get to a certain point, you have to go every single day. And it's like if one day if I make enough time, that's on me. I need to make enough time to really do that. And right now, no. And I'm making excuses. And like I'd rather do something else than do that. And I've accepted that. And I'm just like, when I make the time, I'll get closer to that. And it'll just be one of those things I keep pursuing. Again, it's for the joy of it. And yeah, I believe it.
It's kind of a double. It's a bit of a double standard in some respects, because if you are really passionate about what you do, you might not enjoy it because it's causing you grief, which is another personal thing of what I've had. Is like I really enjoy doing this, but because I'm stuck on something, or something's not working or going the way I want it to, then it's causing me stress, and I'm like, I don't want to do this now, and it's not giving me that enjoyment. So it's always a bit of a fucking stormy ocean. It's like you can never really get it right. But yeah, I don't know. But I must say, I've got to stop rambling because I've got to go to bed now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought you didn't have much to say this week, Dan.
Well, the thing is, it's not really about the film as such. It's more the context of what the film's got in it, if that makes sense. It's like the film didn't really sit with me. It's just there's the themes in it that did, because as you said, with the whole writing stuff. But yeah, so I'll have to tell you my film one.
Yeah, go on.
So it is The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh, okay.
1951.
Oh, nice.
Epic.
I was going to pick it ages ago, but it wasn't on Amazon Prime. But now it's actually on Amazon Prime to rent.
So that means back to back, we've had our newest film and our oldest film.
Yeah, sweet. To be fair, was it older than 12 Angry Men?
Yeah, 6 years older.
Wow, that's insane. Well, John definitely won't see this one.
Yeah, it's on Prime Video for $3.49.
Nice.
Yeah,
he really teased that one. It's on Prime for $3.49.
I was literally, it was going to be like either my third or fourth pick, but then it wasn't on rental, and you could only buy it on like Blu-ray or DVD. So I was like, I don't really want to do that. And then I was looking on there the other day, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I'll have a look for that film. And I was like, I think it was when I was looking at the 12 Angry Men. I was looking at different actors from it, and I'm like, wait a minute, Day the Earth Stood Still. And I was like, oh, I'm picking this next.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it. So
I look forward to that.
I've said my thing. Because my job is awful and I want to leave it. So
oh dear.
At least you're going to it.
It's like he says, man, you get to a certain age and you stop being a writer who waits, and you become a waiter with a hobby.
Yeah, that's
yeah, that's sad. but
it's part of it.
The only good thing is that I've spoke to a bloke who I've met before, like years ago. He works for he's like an artist, and he does illustrations for a company that deals with Games Workshop. So the people that make the models I paint, and he does the role play illustrations. So their books for their role plays, he does illustrations for it. And I've looked at them, and they have like a thing for like if you want to do like work for them, like if you can do this and that. So I'm gonna message them soon.
Awesome.
So hopefully, if I can message them and they say to me, "Oh yeah, you can do this and that," then potentially I might quit my job, because I've had enough of my job. It's just so it's got to the point now. I'd leave. I'd literally walk in tomorrow and like walk out. But that's how bad it's got. But yes, hopefully I can contact them and they say, "Oh yeah, we'd love for you to do this," which is what I'd love for them to say. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's a potential, because I think I'm at the stage now in my mind where I'm happy. Well, I think I could work for someone and do illustrations, and like the level I am at. It's not the level I want to be, but that takes time.
Mm.
But yeah, so hopefully if I can message them and they say, "Oh, yeah, you can got this idea or this," I'm like,
All the
and
best.
then once I'm in the door, then the possibility is endless.
Good luck, man.
So hopefully I might do it tomorrow. I might, when I get home, because I finish at 2. So I might come home and send them an email, say, "Here's my work. Please give me a job. Please check me freelance and work on this IP that I would have dreamed of working for." Just a quick one before I do leave, and it's going to be super quick. It's like people's dreams are always different. Like my dreams might be vastly different to like Rob's dreams or Emmanuel's dreams. Like there's things I remember being a kid and thinking, "Oh wow, imagine if I could do art or draw like that person, or even work for that company doing that." Like doing illustrations or book covers for, I don't know, Games Workshop, or I don't know, doing a comic book cover for DC of Batman. Like that's one of my ultimate, like, once that happens, it'd be like the pinnacle of my life. It sounds really sad.
No, that's not sad at all, man.
Other
And
people have
that's a goal.
aspirations, and like I've not done a few of the things that I think like my aspirations, but like if I was to ever be able to have the opportunity to do a Batman cover for DC, I think I'd probably die. I'd literally have a heart attack, because it's one of them things that you're just like, wow, this is amazing. But other people go, "Oh, I don't like comics." So it's really weird. Like my personal aspirations are way different than other people's, and it's kind of, you got to think about that a lot, like if you're making stuff, because you're going to be satisfied by doing something that might be really minor, like, I don't know, painting for a company that you really like, you love. So, and that will give you much more satisfaction than doing, I don't know, working for some big company, like doing something that's really shit. You go, wow, this is a really big company, but that was really crap. I didn't enjoy that at all. Whereas you're like, "Oh, this really independent company, and I've done a comic book cover for them. That's really great." It's personal aspirations, always a thing to think about. Yeah. So keep writing, Rob. And Pat, stop buying stuff. I'm going.
So speak to you in a bit, man.
See you next week, Dan.
Take
Have a
care,
nice
man.
night.
Yes. So Friday, I'm not going to my club, and I'm finishing late, so it will be fine for me to do it.
Sweet.
Excellent.
Cool. All right.
Cool.
See you later.
See you in a bit, man.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Should we do the favourite scenes bit?
Oh yeah, definitely. I have one.
Oh, you start then, man.
Yeah, my favorite scene, which really like, what was the best word? It just kind of like made the film a good film to a great one, was the scene where he just decides to like, look, my power's gone. I'm gonna go swimming. I'm gonna go for a swim and just gonna get my mind at peace, or just get my thoughts together. and he's just like doing a few legs across the pool, and just how the lyrics of the song like describe what he's doing, but his mind and how it's racing through these thoughts and how to make this song work, and then everything goes on and progresses, and the floor of this the swimming pool just starts to come alive with like the notes and the music sheet of just like the idea of this song that he's been trying so hard to put together. And I thought that was this like, so it's my favorite song in the film, I think.
Really?
It just had this great like suspenseful kind of like rhythm about it that just, you know, he had literally it just, his mind just went clicked, and it just like, no, I know what I'm going to do. But I thought it was a good moment just to see like this is what he would do to relax, and just like him being at peace with himself. He sees that girl across the side of the pool that reminds him of his girlfriend, and it's like that's where it starts. It's just the personal thought and the personal connection, and then he just like, no, this is what I need to do, and he just rushes home and starts to write it by hand, pen on paper or pencil on paper, and he just like creates this great track.
Yeah,
I
I really like that as well, because that's really similar to like how I write as well. Because like if I'm just sitting in front of a laptop trying to get as much done as possible, I'll do nothing. And so like the way I usually do it is like I'll just be like thinking of what I'm doing sort of like as I'm doing other things. So like I'll be sitting at work like doing something completely unrelated, but in the back of my mind I'll be thinking like, oh, but how would this character react to that, and then what do I need to go from there to where I want this to go, and like that kind of thing. And then I'll be like, oh shit, this is what I need to do. And then I'll write a scene, get to the end of that scene, and I'll be like, no idea what to do next. So I'll go and do something else. Same thing will happen in the back of my head, and then I'll go, oh, that's that scene, and then I'll go back to it. And so it's exactly the same thing. Like you kind of like procrastinating so that it's almost like you're giving your brain space so that it can just do its own thing, and then that's when it works.
Yeah, that's just
Pretty cool. I think. Sorry, you were saying something, Ben?
No, I was just saying it was interesting. So you carry on.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like I do that as well. Sometimes as well, and I'll try and jot down or take note or take recordings or whatever when I do have those moments. I can't go back and actually put things in proper down, so I don't forget. Because of course, I will.
Just on that
Also,
quickly, I saw an interview with Stephen King ages ago, and he was like, oh, I never make notes because if I forget something, that means it's a bad idea. And I was like, I would never write anything if I use that. if I took that approach, I would never write a thing.
that's so funny. Look, he can be him, whatever. Like a very bad idea. But also on top of that, in uni, actually just before the uni thing, as a kind of quick aside, the scene in the pool kind of reminded me of when I was really young, just before I kind of got more into music. Like it was the only time I think I've ever sleepwalked, but I could see as I was walking through the house, I could see notes like appearing on the wall in the same way they were appearing on the floor of the pool. And it was like the music was flowing out of me. It was like some really cool, dark kind of theme that you could probably put in a dark film or Halloween type film. And I was just like, oh, this is awesome. I want to do stuff like that. I was like, oh, that reminds me of that. That dream really had a big impact on me. But one thing at uni, I really wanted to be able to do. So there were quite a few people I knew who wouldn't recommend this for anyone, who would either take drugs or get high or whatever kind of thing to kind of get in the zone, or kind of do whatever it is to get into the zone, whether it be to work out or play a game, whatever it was. And I was just like, I would love the ability to just get in the zone whenever I willed it. And one of the things at uni, because obviously it's you have lots of pressures on you. I was just like, I want to do this. So I think through the first year, eventually I got to the point where I was just like, I can actually do this. And I would like just get lost in the piece or the world of the piece, whatever it is, and then just kind of wander around it and then let it play. And then like pause and go, wait. No, do this. And then different ideas will come to me. And then be like, and then obviously time, I'm losing track of time. But point is, I'm like in that world and I'm just going, I'm like, yeah. But very tiring. But I think that's one of my favorite parts, I think, of creating when you have that time, getting lost and just seeing where it goes and seeing if you like that and looking back on it. And then you can always change things, edit it. But I think my favorite I don't think I can pick one scene, but my favorite two scenes are the one where the party's happening and he just kind of starts tapping.
Yeah.
And then it starts doing a kind of the like improv musical, which is a very kind of like that thing would happen at uni.
I really love the idea behind that, right? Because in the original musical, it used to start with that, and it literally used to be just Jonathan Larson on the stage on his own, and he would literally just walk up to the microphone, and he would start going like, and he would just do it on his own, like just straight into the mic, him and no one else. So I really love that they kind of went, all right, how do we put this in the film? And the way that they did it, just by like the party's dying down, he wants to convince his friend to like stay in this life of poverty rather than move into this like brand new house, and he just sort of literally just starts tapping on someone's back. And then the way Andrew Garfield plays it is just perfect as well, because he's literally like feeling his way through the flat, and he's like pointing to the kitchen when he talks about the kitchen, then the light goes out when he talks about the light in the bathroom, and it's just, yeah, I love that scene, man. It's so perfect. Like the idea behind it and the acting is just spot on.
It's so true. He did it so well. Everyone. I think my second scene is when he finally gets it when Mr. Hutchinson like sings his song. Yeah, it's too late by that point. But I'm like, finally, you get what she was saying, what this was happening, but at the same time, yeah, the piece works really well. And he's also kind of thinking of a lot of things, the consequences of many things. Like trying to get this done. And can you still hear me?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. And to kind of add on why I rated everything high, but I gave Enjoyment at 6. It's just a personal thing.
Because it sucked.
No. It's just the thing where if character annoys me, I just don't like enjoy it that much. And that's just what it is. He was very human and very realistic. I think that's how the actual guy was. But that doesn't mean I want to watch him. Also, there were parts where he was acting this character that throughout the film that reminded me a lot of why he got picked to play Spider-Man. he plays Spider-Man at the age they asked him to play him just before uni. I was like, yeah, he did that perfectly, and he can pull that off, and he's done. And I was thinking in my mind, he's doing something similar with this. This guy has maturing to do. He has this habit of doing jokes or making it light when he needs to take it seriously. And there's some things he just doesn't get because his mind hasn't got to that point yet. But it's just like, yeah, I see why they cast him. I see why they cast him.
Yeah, I think this is probably only the second Andrew Garfield film where I've been like, yeah, no, he was great. Like the only other one that I thought much of him with was Social Network.
He's excellent in that.
But I've seen some footage from because he basically like the reason that Lin-Manuel casted him was because he saw him in Angels in America on Broadway. And so like Angels in America is like, I think depending on when you see it, it's between 6 and 8 hours long. And Lin-Manuel saw him in that and he was like, oh man, like if he can do this for that long, then this guy can do anything. But yeah, I've seen clips of him in that and he looks amazing in that as well. But yeah.
6 to 8 hours. Is this
Yeah.
like a straight performance?
Yeah. So like, yeah, Lin-Manuel saw him in
Crazy.
that and he was like, oh, if this guy can do this for this song, then he can do anything. And then
there's no chance John's gonna ever watch that.
but that's what I really like about like that casting as well, is because like, yeah, apparently he literally went to Andrew Garfield, like asked if he could sing. Andrew Garfield was like asked him how long he had and stuff, and Lin-Manuel had that much faith in him to go like, right, if I can get you a vocal coach and I can teach you how to play piano and all of this stuff, then you'll be able to do it. Like I think the fact that Lin-Manuel did that is really cool. What about you, Pat?
It's
I like to talk now.
That's because your TV's coming free.
Oh, fair enough. I spoke to you about it. Probably my favourite scene is the bit with the two critics, because they remind me of you and John. It's like where he's like, well, that sucked. Oh no, the music was quite swell. The individual music was.
Yeah, that was great. And sometimes like saying all this stuff and the other guys just say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant to say. That's kind of
Yeah, I really liked Stephen Sondheim being in it because I really like at the start where he's kind of like setting the scene for everything, and he's like, oh, in 2 days it's my 30th birthday, which means I'm already older than Stephen Sondheim was when he had his first show on Broadway, and I'm already older than Paul McCartney was when he wrote his last song with John Lennon. Like all of that's really nice, and then introducing Stephen Sondheim as a character later on is really nice. Do you know as well a little bit of trivia? So the you know the towards the end he gets an answer phone message from Stephen Sondheim. So that was legit Stephen Sondheim.
Yeah, that was the real voice of him, which was nice. A nice touch.
So this makes it Stephen Sondheim's last film. But apparently, like Lin-Manuel got in touch with Stephen Sondheim, and he was like, "Oh, do you mind doing this for us? Like, you've just got to record a message. Like, it's nothing too strenuous. Do you mind doing it?" And apparently, he wasn't expecting him to say yes or anything. But then Stephen Sondheim came back and was like, "Yeah, I'll do that. And this is what I'm going to say." So he actually wrote that bit as well.
That's interesting. Do you know if that actually happened in real life? Did Jonathan Larson and Sondheim actually have this back and forth kind of interview?
Yeah. Stephen Sondheim legit was his mentor for a long time.
Oh, nothing.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I really love about it, though, because like it's another thing that's like the opposite of The Greatest Showman, because The Greatest Showman kind of went like, oh, we're just going to completely rewrite this guy's history so he looks like a hero, but Tick Tick Boom like gave like it made a faithful biopic to what actually happened, and it didn't idolize him. It just showed him as like somebody who struggled and struggled to the point where he failed multiple times, but in the end he actually did something. And yeah, that's really nice. But I think if I was going to pick one scene, it would be the one where he hops the fence and then plays the piano in the amphitheater.
Yeah, alone in the rain.
Because like it just brings everything together for me, because like you get like the history of him and Michael, and sort of like I don't know, I just really like how the song's structured, because he's kind of like he's talking about the things that they've done together, the things that he's done, and you get a call back to Come to Your Senses, and then you also get like references to West Side Story and when they were in that. And just that whole bit, like I said earlier, of like over and over again until I get it right. I was just like, yeah, this is the film that gets it. And there's a really nice like little bit behind it. So when they were editing the film, the editor moved into Lin-Manuel's house, because it was like COVID and whatever. They were just like, I'll just move in, it'll be easier. And so they were watching the final cut of the film together, just the editor and Lin-Manuel. And apparently they had like a bit of an argument because the editor was like, people aren't going to understand this scene. We need to give it more context because it's just going to come across as random. And then Lin-Manuel's 3-year-old son came in when they were watching it. And the bit where he hops the fence and then he uncovers the piano for the first time, apparently Lin-Manuel's son said, oh, the piano's going to make him better. And so Lin-Manuel was like, look, if a 3-year-old gets it, we're keeping the scene. So, so yeah, I really like that. I think you've gone really quiet, Emmanuel.
You see there?
I think so. I think he just said
I'm
something.
still
but-
here.
Oh, did you just say something?
I just said cool.
Oh, right. Oh, it sounded like it sort of cut off the end of like a long sentence. But yeah, I just love it, man. Like it's like I keep saying, it's just one of those films that just like gets what. Well, I think it gets what it's like to be a writer, but it also gets what it's like to be a fan of something. Because like that scene with where you hear "Come to Your Senses" for the first time, and he's talking about how when he opens his eyes, it's not Carissa that he sees, but it's Susan, and just all of that kind of stuff. It's just it just does so well in everything that it tries to show, I think. I thought you was going to say something there, Pat. You look like you was unmuting yourself.
I have now.
I'm surprised Pat liked it as much as he did. I mean, I'm not complaining. That's awesome. But,
yeah, I was surprised as well, actually.
Because it is a very showy, showstoppy kind of like typical Broadway production, but it has a lot of the story of it is probably why it works. It's just because the story is just like it's just a biopic told with song in a way.
I think for me, it wasn't your stereotypical musical. I know you might differ, but it feels like more of a drama with music in it rather than an actual full-blown musical, which is why I probably took to it a bit more.
I think it's like what I was saying earlier. I think that the premise kind of lends itself to that, because where the music only either happens on stage or it happens inside Jonathan's head, because you never get that weird transition from speech into like people starting clicking and like all of that kind of stuff. It's I think it's a little bit it's a little bit more accessible, I suppose, because like the only time that you really get a song that's like actually people in the room singing is when Jonathan starts like singing at the party, but it makes sense for him to do that at that point. And like even though I really like musicals, I can see why people don't get along with them for that reason. Because like in like West Side Story, for example, there's just random points where somebody will start launching into a song, and you're kind of going like, why did that need to be a song but not the rest of the conversation? But like just because it's just a stylistic thing, and like it's something that I don't mind, but I can see why people do have a problem with it.
I think it also makes, when you said that, it makes me think of the times that, especially at uni, or if I'm chilling with someone who's really musical or whatnot, there are times that something will remind you of something, and just partway through the conversation, you just start breaking out in song. And then it starts joining in. And then if there's like you just makeshift instruments around the room, suddenly a bucket becomes a drum. It's one of those things where it just kind of takes that to a stage level. And again, it is a very personal kind of like, you either like this or get along with it, or you're not really that, you don't really care about that. And someone just randomly breaking out of song, it's like, but why? Someone who would do that, it's just like,
yeah, that's exactly it, man. Because like I said, I don't mind it personally, but there's a bit in West Side Story where like you've got the two gangs are kind of facing off, and then just for no reason they start clicking and singing at one another, and it's like why? And it's like I say, I don't mind it, and like as a stylistic thing,
it works.
I like it as like a genre, but I can totally see why people would go like, I don't understand why they're doing that. This is silly. But in this, because like Jonathan Larson is a musical person, and he is like a writer and whatever, and like he just sort of starts doing it as the party's dying, it just makes complete sense. So yeah, I really love that about it. Like the choice to kind of do it that way. That anything that's like more traditionally musical is all going on in his head is really cool, I think.
I think in that way as well, it kind of feels like throughout the film, those musical numbers or things in his head or things that were actually on stage or whatever, it felt like his writing process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, oh, this is something he's coming up with. Oh, the scene where it's Kim and the girl next to him, like having that kind of spat, but in a musical way.
Mm.
Is this a cool idea? Is this a good idea? It really works. But at the time, it doesn't feel like, oh, this is a random song. It feels like this is one of his ideas.
Yeah.
Playing out. And it makes sense that it would happen.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. Yeah, and I think part of it is that Lin-Manuel directed it, because I mean I've said to you guys like loads of times that I think that Hamilton is probably the best musical ever made, and I think the reason for that is just because of how thoughtful it is. Like if you sort of go in and start reading about Hamilton, like there's literally nothing in that. There's not a single chord or like even the amount of songs that are on the soundtrack, there's a reason for it. Like it's just, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to pick Hamilton at some point, is just to talk about all of those things that are so thoughtful. And I think he brings that to this as well. Because like even the swimming pool, for example, right? That swimming pool that scene is shot in is the swimming pool that Jonathan Larson actually used to go to, and like even in the flat, the bend in the bookshelf, that they found that from a video that Jonathan Larson made of his room, and the painting that's on the wall was painted by his friend, and it was actually hanging in his flat. And like there's all these things that are just like everything is done with purpose, and that's what I really like about Lin-Manuel.
Nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that's the thing, like he's one of those people that like I was a little bit like when Rachel said he directed a film, I was like, he's directed a film, but like he writes musicals. But now I've seen it, and I've seen like that he puts the same amount of thought into this film as he does his own musicals. I'm like, I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, have you got Nora Trusin?
What?
Yes.
Dude.
What? Oh. Yeah, I wanted some earbuds that were good and that I could put in and wear when I was a scooter. So on here, I got in just as the call was starting, because I was driving from London. But I remember having your headphones in the past, and I knew they did your buds, their like loops and different stuff. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of buds, but I was looking at it, I was like, well, £5, I could stop at any time, like I did with the big Nerd headphones. And it's like, you know what? Let me give them a try. It's not an expensive buy-in.
Yeah.
The great thing about it, I'm not tied into a contract. I said, like, yeah, cool. Let me try these. And yeah, they've been really good.
Yeah, I really like them. And it's like you said, like, because it's like you'd have to have them for like 4 years before you've paid the full price of them. So it's like,
yeah, and after 2 years, they're yours, and they send you a new version.
Yeah, that's why I got these. So the reason I got these was because I've had these for 2 years. So I didn't even know it was a thing. They literally sent me an email being like, "Oh, this is your anniversary, so you can pick a new product." And I was like, "Oh, really?" Yeah.
Yeah, I did like the big ones. I just didn't get along personally with the inner air part for long periods of time.
Yeah, it gets kind of sweaty because you've got like quite a tight seal as well as it going into your ear.
Yeah, and I tend to wear them for a long time. So I was just like, I ended up getting the Sony WXM 1003 or whatever kind of thing, which are like the most popular or one of the best awarded sound canceling headphones. So saying that, the newer headphones, the big ones, they sound slightly better, and the sound canceling is better.
Yeah, the sound cancelling
But
is really good.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
But as a second best, I really like these. And to be honest, to me, they compete with 300-pound headphones, even though they're like 150.
Yeah,
I know they're
I've
older
heard that a
now,
lot
but
about
it's
them
just
actually. Yeah.
yeah, like, these are really good headphones. They're popular for a reason. They won awards for a reason.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. Yeah, I always hear good stuff about them, always, especially for the price range, like you said. Oh, John's just sent me a message about Tick Tick Boom. He says he loves it. Signs are good.
Oh, great.
Oh, nice.
Hopefully he watches 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh yeah, I saw it. He didn't finish that one. Did he finish Tick Tick Boom yet?
No, he's just finishing it now, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize he didn't watch 12 Angry Men until I looked in the score sheet today. And I was just like, oh wait, it's grayed out. Wait, what?
Yeah, we started graying it out because it looks incomplete, and he's taken like a month to watch films at the minute. But I don't know. Hopefully he'll come back properly soon.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, I'm quite pleased with how this has gone. I really didn't expect anybody to like it because, like I said, the first time I watched it, I was a bit cold on it. And then the second time, I don't even know why I watched it a second time now, but the second time I watched it, I just kept going like, oh, right, this is what they were trying to do. And like, this is what this is. And yeah. And I also just think like Lin-Manuel is so like infectious when he starts talking about things. And the more I started watching videos of him sort of doing interviews about it and stuff, the more I was kind of going like, oh, this is what you were trying to do. That's actually really cool. So yeah. So I'm glad I picked it.
Get that. Well, there'll be times when I kind of get something, but then I'll watch like a video producer talking about something specific in like music video or whatnot. And then I'll be like, I kind of get it even more. It's like, oh yeah, that's true. And then I kind of care about it more, or it grows in me more, or I like it more through that kind of seeing their viewpoint or their reaction, or gaining deeper understanding into it.
Yeah, I always like to like it. Any film really. I always like to have a look at what the director and the writer thinks about it, because it's like if I can understand what they're trying to do, then 9 times out of 10 I kind of go like, oh, that's brilliant. Like that just like makes me appreciate it on like a whole new level. But then I suppose the downside is like when we had Leon and I kind of discovered some things about Luke Besson that I'd have rather not known.
When you have those times when like Antichrist,
yeah,
it was already
those
messed
times.
up. And then you heard what he was trying to do. It's like, what? He was trying to do what?
Yeah. When I was when I was trying to like do some research on Lars von Trier, I found a video of him at Cannes Film Festival, and it was basically just him sitting on stage telling everyone he was a Nazi, and I was like, okay, I don't know how to take this, because either you are a Nazi and that's really bad, or you're just saying you're a Nazi, which is also bad.
And then you make films which are even worse.
Say that again, Pat?
Eh?
Say that again?
I said then he makes films that are even worse. What did Dan pick? Because I didn't hear.
Damn it, Pat.
So he picked the I was going to say the man who sold the earth, but he didn't. He picked the day the earth stood still.
Ugh.
Wait, what?
What?
Which version?
The
The original-
1951 one, not the shitty 2008
I
one.
mean, I
Yeah.
didn't really like the old one either, but
Oh, I'm surprised you watched it.
I watched the remake and then I found out that there was an original and I couldn't get into that either.
To be fair, old sci-fi is hard because, yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me too much, but it's another one of those things where I'm like, I can see why it'd bother someone else, just because like in the 50s, doing like sci-fi special effects was like quite a hard ask. So it's kind of like everyone kind of looks like a washing machine pipe. And
This call's going to be interesting because I'm probably not going to have watched the film by that point.
Oh, what?
What?
I'm working all day and the call's on Friday. I ain't got a day off yet until Saturday.
It's a short one, to be fair. It's only 90 minutes.
As soon I get home and I'm asleep within like 45 minutes of getting home.
What about if I call in sick for you?
I need the money.
What about if I tell them to pay you still?
Yeah. Well, enjoy them, just like tonight.
Good luck with that. I'll try and watch it, but don't expect too much.
It's an easy one to watch, to be fair. Like even if you split it over like 45 minutes or something.
I might have to split over 3.5 hours.
Making a mini series out of a 90-minute long film.
Yeah, don't enjoy it. It's not a film you should split up, to be fair.
If I manage to stay awake long enough, I'll try and watch it. But if not, it probably won't be watched until after the call.
Yeah, that's not too bad, to be fair, if you've already seen it.
I mean, I'll definitely join the call.
Are you off, man?
Yeah, see you next week, man. Have
In a
good
little
night.
bit, dude.
See you later.
Bye,
Later,
man.
man. Yeah, no, if you've already seen it before, then it's not too bad.
Yeah, I'll definitely be on the call.
Yeah.
It's
definitely-
I mean, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I've not seen it, I'm not gonna turn up.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not firing shots, just in case you do watch this.
Oh, right. I thought you was going to fart or something. How are the Chargers getting on, Pat?
They're winning 24-7 at half time. I had to
24/7.
I sort of had to not get excited over the last throw before half time
Why?
because Herbert threw 160 yards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
And
the
now-
Niners are winning as well.
Yeah, you're beating Cincy.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, is like, if we hang on to that, it's quite a good win this season. Because it ain't going brilliantly.
To be fair, you've done well over the last month since you beat the Lambs.
Thing is, though, I mean, I don't know, if you're already coming back from 6 losses, and as well as being in the NFC West, like I'm not too hopeful this year.
There's always next year. That's what I
Yeah.
keep telling myself.
The thing is, like the Cardinals are doing phenomenally this year,
Yeah.
and then I mean, even the Rams, they're doing really. I mean, yeah, this year's a write-off. I might watch the Day the Earth Stood Still tonight, seeing it's just as it's a short one, and we're already
Nice
doing
one.
this on Sunday.
Hmm.
Wait, I'm going to go and do that, I think.
Yeah, I'll see you next week, guys. Have
Cool.
a nice evening.
Speak to you guys in a bit. I'm glad
Have a
you
good
both
night.
like Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah, it was great.
thing.
Thanks, Rob.
Oh, Ben, before I go, what did your parents think of it?
Oh, my mum really liked it, especially for like you mentioned, all these classical theatre and musical actors and actresses and performers are involved, and I think it's just one of those ones that she really liked the story, and my dad was like Humphrey and Alec was a bit unsure about the performance side of things. It was very like showstoppy and kind of like everyone puts their heart on their sleeve kind of thing. that
Yeah.
the story itself, it was just a great biopic told really well.
Mm.
And they like that, especially just because it was just the story as itself was just like brilliantly told with words and music.
Yeah.
I think.
Nice one.
It went down really well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was really curious about that because I didn't get the references the first time. Like I only got it after reading about them. So yeah, I was curious about what they'd think about it because I was thinking they probably would get them all. So.
Yeah, and sometime influence, and his presence was really good, really a nice touch. Especially like you said about the little actual real life vocal cameo he had on the phone, which was a good little thing that they put in. I think it's one of those things that if we were like big fans of like Rent or something, we'd probably like it even more. Like me as well. I think if I loved Rent and I saw this, I'd actually adore this film.
Yeah.
100%. But the fact that I haven't really seen Rent. I've only seen like bits and pieces of it, to be fair. But I definitely want to see it now. Considering
Definitely do, man. Like I'll probably pick it one day. But yeah, it's really. I think Rent has probably got like the best opening of any musical I've ever seen. And yeah, you'll see when I pick it. But yeah, Rent's really worth watching. All right, sweet. I'm gonna go and watch this.
Yeah, have a good night, man. Enjoy.
Yeah, you too. Sweet.
Enjoy,
Speak to
Pat.
you guys in a bit.
See you next week, Pat. Bye.
See you later.